What's going on, everyone? Anthony from Chronometer Check here, and today we're going to be doing a first impressions of the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have a slight confession. I mean, usually these unboxing videos, I do actually unbox the watch, but as you can see here, I got a little bit excited. You know, when I received this watch, I just couldn't wait. I pulled it out, I sized it up, I got to wearing it, and you know, here it is. Now, the Tissot PRX Powermatic is actually a sort of upgrade of a previously released quartz PRX that was released in 2020 that had a simple sunburst dial and obviously a quartz movement. Now, Tissot, I guess, saw the success of that watch and said, hey, let's give the mechanical watch enthusiasts something to really sink their teeth into, and that's where the Powermatic 80 comes in. So with the addition of a Powermatic 80 movement, which we'll get into in a little bit, and this beautiful waffle dial, here we have this watch that you see before you today. This watch was released in 2021 along with two other models, one in a black dial variant and one in a silver dial variant with rose gold accents. And this watch is completely blatantly, I'm not even gonna say inspired by 70s designed watches. It's basically a 70s style watch with a modern movement and, you know, modern features. There's very direct comparisons to be made to modern, highly coveted sports watches like the Royal Oak and the Nautilus, but this is even more closely based on a Tissot PRX from the 70s itself. Now, everything about this watch screams 70s, you know, from the case, geometric case shape and the very geometric sharp angles and lugs. I will say everything from all the angles on the case and even down to the brushing of the case itself is done very, very precisely, very well done. There's very clear distinctions between the different sides of the case. And the edges here, there's only a slight polish chamfer in between, which I absolutely love when watch manufacturers do a little bit of polish in between brushed or a little bit of brushed in between polish. I mean, that's what really sets a watch off, in my opinion. And we can even see that as we do see that the integrated bracelet sort of tapers down with a very, very nice brushed finish equal to that on the case, but there is a little bit of polishing in between the links itself, sort of adding a little bit of visual interest when the light hits it just right. So the crown at 3 o'clock is machined very, very nicely. It is fine-toothed and it is even inscribed with a T for Tissot. Now, one gripe that I have about this watch is the crown is a little bit small. Yes, that is very, very 70s style, but in terms of actual, you know, practical usage, it can make it a little bit difficult to both pull the crown out and set the time. So I do wish it was a little bit bigger just for that reason alone. It is also seated into the case a little bit, which is sort of what accentuates the fact that it can be difficult to sort of pull out. Now, one of the most obvious standout features visually of this watch is the absolute gorgeous waffle dial. This color is in a sort of dark navy that does have hints of a royal blue when it opens up in direct sunlight. It sort of does have a almost sunburst pattern when it does hit the light directly, but I would say it is a pretty muted blue most of the time. Now, a little bit of anti-reflective coating on this crystal, which is a flat crystal, stands out by the way. Sapphire Crystal would have been absolutely perfect in terms of absolutely, you know, illuminating this dial a little bit more. And that is one small gripe I have about this watch. The crystal can make the watch a little bit glare heavy, and it can be sort of hard to see that dark dial underneath. I can imagine the lighter silver dial variant with rose gold indices would sort of alleviate that just a little bit, but you know, a little bit of AR coating would have went an absolutely long way with this watch. And finally, the date wheel at 3 o'clock is framed nicely. However, the fact that there is a date wheel at all might be a bit of a detraction for some. Personally, I think it's subtle enough that it doesn't really take away from the watch itself. So the dial itself has a waffle texture that is absolutely gorgeous. And you know, it might even be for the dial itself that I might take this watch over the previous quartz models with the sunburst dial. It's absolutely beautiful. It does have a Tissot. Both the applied indices and the handset are pretty geometric, rectangular, and sort of get out of the way to reveal the dial underneath. They do a good job in the sense that while there is a lot of negative space because of this, it does sort of give the dial a lot of room to breathe, and it's absolutely gorgeous, so why wouldn't you want it to? Now, both the hands and the hour markers have luminescence. However, because they sort of lack surface area, they're very, very small, the lume isn't the best. So keep that in mind if you are someone who's really big on lume. Just because these are so small, it's not that great, not that helpful. Now, taking a look at the dimensions of the watch, we do have about 40 millimeters in diameter, a 11 millimeter thickness, a 44.6 millimeter lug to lug, and a lug width which is a little bit disingenuous as it does have an integrated bracelet, but about 11 millimeters if maybe you wanted to sort of, you know, I don't know, try to MacGyver your own leather watch strap into this. However, I think that kind of sort of defeats part of the point of a beautiful sports watch with an integrated bracelet. Now, that's not to say you can't do it. That's just my opinion. I think that, you know, Tissot did a really good job of sort of seamlessly transitioning the case to the bracelet. And, you know, when you do get a watch with an integrated bracelet, you kind of need to be a little bit more critical on the design of the watch itself and the bracelet together as more of a package, as opposed to other watches where you might get it and think of a strap as sort of easily replaceable or even disposable in the case of some more entry-level watches. But that's absolutely not the case here, and I think Tissot actually did a very, very good job of providing a decent enough bracelet that is solid and has very thin links, which is actually helpful and almost quite crucial in terms of actually adjusting your watch for size. Now, that is because the butterfly deployment clasp over here doesn't have any micro adjustments. So without, you know, if these links were a little bit larger, you might actually struggle to size the watch to your wrist. Speaking of micro adjustments, that is one of the gripes I do have with this watch. Absolutely no micro adjustments, so keep that in mind if you are someone who constantly needs to change the size of your watch. I mean, there's no quick and easy way to do that. You will have to remove or add links to change the size, but as far as the deployment clasp, you know, the butterfly clasp itself, it is machined very, very well, very satisfying. It's smoothed out nicely so it doesn't, you know, bother you or bug you on the wrist. But the lack of micro adjustments is a bit of a bummer for me, mainly because, you know, I've already gone ahead and sized this watch up, but now because of the weather changing a little bit, it is sort of a little bit missized to my wrist. It's a little bit loose, and therefore I will need to go ahead and size it up again, and micro adjustments would have alleviated that. But all in all, I am very, very pleased with the bracelet. Now on the case back, we can see it does have a see-through display case back, which reveals the Powermatic 80 movement inside. Speaking of the Powermatic 80, this is an absolutely amazing movement that has a, you guessed it, 80-hour power reserve. And this is because it has a 21,600 beats per hour, so a little bit slower compared to some more, you know, medium to higher end Swiss movements based on the 2824 that have a 28,000 beat rate, but the lower beat rate on this watch helps keep the power reserve up, and an 80-hour power reserve is absolutely phenomenal. This essentially means you can wear this watch, you know, Monday through Friday, put it down, and then if you pick it up on Monday again, it should still be ready to go, assuming it was fully wound up before you put it down. All right, let's throw this watch on the wrist and see how it wears. Quick wrist check first. Today I'm wearing my Seiko Presage Cocktail Time SRPF 41, aka the Matcha. I mean, this style is absolutely phenomenal. Probably one of the best styles you could get for under $500 when you were able to get this, despite the fact that it is a limited. So, you know, it's obviously going to be a lot harder to find these days. But hey, if you are looking for a really nice blue dial watch, I've got one for you. So here we have the watch on my 7-inch wrist. As you can see, it plays with the lights so nicely. As far as the dimensions go, I would say the dimensions are a bit deceiving because it does have a 40 millimeter diameter. However, I would say it wears more like a 41 or 42 millimeter size watch, just because the lug to lug and the way the case itself sort of transitions into the bracelet, which is sort of integrated and slopes down. The first link of the bracelet doesn't actually pivot or swing, so you're kind of locked into that size. However, it's not, you know, bulky or oversized by any means. It's definitely not a small watch, so keep that in mind if you do have small wrists. So all in all, the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80 does exactly what it sets out to do. It's a completely unapologetic 70s style watch with a super awesome Powermatic 80 movement, large 80-hour power reserve that's absolutely fantastic. It has a gorgeous textured waffle dial and a geometric case with an integrated bracelet that I would say is simply, you know, the best for the price. You would be very, very hard pressed to find anything better with such a nice bracelet integrated for this price or less. This is a piece that's quite readily available, so if you are in the market, I mean, it's not super hard to find them for under retail, sometimes around $5.50, which I think this is an absolute steal for what you get, considering I think Tissot could easily have charged $7.50 for this watch and likely would have still sold like hotcakes. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with future news, reviews, and unboxings. And if you did enjoy this video, I would appreciate if you hit that thumbs up button. Sort of really helps the YouTube algorithm and all that shenanigans. Links to this watch down below in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.